Hey everybody, it's Jeff, Aromatics. Hope everybody is doing well. Now, quite a long time ago, probably 3 years ago, I did a video where I talked about cigars and humidity. I was pretty new to being serious about cigars at the time, and I knew that you had to keep your cigars at a certain humidity to keep them from drying out and to protect them, but I always wondered what was the reason of doing it beyond just making sure your cigars didn't dry out. Did it actually affect the taste? That was what mattered most to me. I wasn't quite as interested in how it made the cigar perform. That is important, but I wanted to know whether or not it affected the taste, and I never really got a good answer when I'd ask people that specific question. So I figured to take matters into my own hand and do an experiment. So what I did was I took two cigars that I was very familiar with. One of them was the Camacho Triple Maduro, and the other one is the Padron Londres. Two cigars that I find are very consistent and would be good to do this experiment to see what the difference in taste would be when it comes to different humidity. So what I did was I had two of these, I had one of each of these cigars at 72 relative humidity, and then I smoked them and I reviewed them and how the performance was, and mostly how the taste was. And I also was intending on smoking these at 62 relative humidity and seeing what the difference is between the two relative humidities between these cigars, to see if there was any distinct change in taste, as well as just describe performance and anything else that I found doing that experiment. Well, years go by, and I never end up getting to it. When I initially meant to do it within that same time frame, within a month or so, but it was in the middle of winter, and I just was sick at the time, and I just never got around to doing it, and then I just kind of forgot about it. It wasn't really important to me anymore, because in my head I kind of knew what my results were, even though I didn't do the videos. But I've been asked all the time if I've ever followed up on the video, and I didn't think, I didn't know how important it was to people, but it seems like a lot of people are interested. It's a pretty popular video of mine. So I figured I had my Triple Camacho here, and I also have had another Padron Londres. I figured I would smoke it and discuss what my final thoughts were on the subject. Now, I came to the conclusion a long time ago, because I've smoked a bunch of these cigars since then, as well as I roll my own, and there's all sorts of different factors when it comes to rolling your own cigars, and the different humidity and wet leaf, the moisture of the leaves. Sometimes when you roll cigars, I'll roll one right off the table and it's really moist, and so I know what it's like to smoke a really wet cigar, and then I've had cigars that are right dry, and I know what it's like to smoke those as well. Either way, this cigar is at 62 relative humidity. It is the Padron Londres. And basically what I have found, what my final thoughts are ultimately between 72 and 62, I never really found that much of a difference in taste. The major thing would possibly be at 62, you get, or at a lower RH, you might get a little bit, it might get a little bit, not bland, but a little bit, you lose a little bit of that richness, just slightly, but not enough to really even matter at 62. But yet at 72, at first you would remain most of the flavor, but as you smoke it down, if you're in more humid weather, it would get soggy and then it would get harsh. Another factor here in Canada where I live is the fact that it's super dry in the wintertime and it's super humid in the summertime and hot. So what would happen is in the wintertime, if I had a cigar at 72 RH, which I did when I smoked the Padron and the Camacho, the first half would be smokable, but then after you get past halfway, it would get really in the wintertime, yeah, if it was at 72, yeah, you could smoke half of it would be fine, and then it would get a little bit spongy towards the end. But if you were to have your cigars at 72 humidity, in the summertime when it's really humid, you would get like maybe a quarter of the way through your cigar and it would get spongy right away, wet, mushy, and harsh, and almost unsmokable. So 72 isn't totally unsmokable if you're in really dry, colder weather, but still not optimal. Now, when it came to 62 relative humidity, if it's in the absolute winter where it's really dry, your cigar, 62 is not too bad. That's actually probably the lowest, pretty low, a low range, but still not too low for me. The cigar would still smoke pretty good. It might be a little bit, have a little bit more of that, wish I could explain it, just a little bit of a drier, maybe you lose a little bit of the richness of your cigar, but not much. And you might get some cracking as well in your wrapper because of the colder weather. 62 in the summertime for both cigars was perfect. Was pretty much perfect. You'd start out, your cigar would be fine, and by the time you get down to the halfway point, you get a little bit of moisture in your cigar, just a touch, but not too much. You could smoke it right to the nub. So ultimately, I just came to the conclusion that I like my cigars between they're smokable pretty much all year round, anywhere between 60 to 69. Optimally, I keep mine at 65. So that's where I've decided to keep my cigars. So it really depends on where you live. So ultimately, as far as taste goes, the humidity, if your performance is fine, if it's not getting mushy, the taste really isn't that big of a difference to me. It doesn't really matter, but it does affect the performance. And if it's too humid and too mushy, you get a bad burn, it gets mushy, and then it gets harsh and not so good tasting. So that's basically the findings that I came up with. And from what I've learned since then, most people seem to like to keep their cigars on the drier side as well, between 60 and 68. I find I rarely find anybody anymore that actually has their cigars at 70 degree, keeps them at 70 degrees and 70 relative humidity. But if you do, good. If it works for you, that's awesome. Whatever works for you. And then also some people say different cigars perform better or worse at different humidities, and I can see that being true. I know certain pipe tobaccos smoke better, some drier, and some with a little bit more moisture in them. You'd have to really know those cigars well and really experiment to figure that out, I would suppose. But I don't really smoke that much, especially when it comes to cigars, to really be able to know if it made a difference between a couple degrees humidity, like from 62 to 66. I doubt I would notice the difference, especially with the variance in weather that we have here. Anyway, that's basically my results. What do you guys think? What's your sweet spot? And does weather affect you? Do you change your like when you smoke your cigar? How you keep them, like how you humidify them during different weather? That'd be interesting to know. Just let me know in the bucket below. All right, look at that ash. Padrones just never disappoint. That is just, come on, just beautiful. Okay, so I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you on some videos in the future. So till then, Aromatics, signing out.